Everyone saw him, but no one noticed. The elderly janitor moved silently through the grand ballroom, mop in hand, while VIP guests clinked champagne glasses and exchanged pleasantries, until armed men burst through the doors. That's when something nobody expected happened. Today, tell us in the comments which city around the world are you watching from? And if you enjoy stories about unsung heroes and unexpected moments of courage, consider subscribing for more content like this. The crystal chandeliers of the Metropolitan Gala cast golden light across marble floors as the city's elite gathered for the annual charity auction. Designer gowns swept past polished shoes, while conversations flowed as freely as the expensive wine. In the corner of this opulent scene, almost invisible among the grandeur, worked Marcus Wilson. At 68, Marcus moved with the careful precision of someone who had learned long ago never to draw attention to himself. His gray uniform was pressed but worn, his silver hair neatly combed beneath a maintenance cap. He pushed his cart methodically between tables, emptying ashtrays and polishing surfaces that were already spotless. The guests barely acknowledged his presence. To them, he was part of the scenery, necessary but unremarkable. A congressman brushed past him without a glance. A tech billionaire's wife handed him her empty glass without looking up from her conversation. Marcus accepted it with a quiet, "Thank you, Mom," that went unheard over the orchestra's gentle waltz. But Marcus saw everything. While cleaning, his eyes tracked movement, patterns, noted exit routes, and cataloged faces, with the practiced efficiency of someone trained to read danger in the subtlest details. His hands might hold a mop, but his mind maintained the same vigilant awareness that had once protected presidents. The evening's honored guest was Senator Patricia Hartwell, a presidential candidate whose recent policy announcements had generated both fierce support and dangerous opposition. She stood near the main stage, surrounded by a modest security detail of 3 agents, who seemed more focused on looking professional than being professionally alert. Marcus had noticed them immediately upon arriving for his shift. Young, confident, but lacking the paranoid edge that real protection required. They positioned themselves too close together, left the service entrances unmonitored, and spent too much time looking at their phones. In his former life, Marcus would have had words with their supervisor, but that life was behind him now. He had chosen anonymity after retirement, preferring the quiet satisfaction of honest work to the recognition that came with his past service. The official records listed him as deceased, a convenient fiction that allowed him to disappear from a world where too many people remembered his face. As the evening progressed, Marcus noticed subtle changes in the crowd's energy. 3 men in ill-fitting tuxedos had arrived separately, but positioned themselves strategically around the ballroom. They didn't bid on auction items, didn't engage in small talk, and kept checking their watches with military precision. Marcus continued his cleaning routine, but now each movement served a dual purpose. Emptying a trash bin near the stage gave him a clear view of the nearest suspicious guest. Mopping the area by the kitchen doors let him confirm his suspicion about the service entrance being compromised. The first man was stationed near the main entrance, his back to the wall and eyes on the crowd. The second had taken position by the service bar close enough to reach the stage in seconds. The third lingered near the emergency exits, casually blocking the most obvious escape route. Marcus recognized the formation immediately. It was a textbook containment setup designed to control all exit points before moving to the primary target. He had seen it executed dozens of times during his career, sometimes as the protector, sometimes as the protected party being briefed on potential threats. Senator Hartwell continued her speech about education reform, unaware that her modest security detail had failed to notice what a janitor with a mop had identified within minutes of arrival. Marcus weighed his options carefully. He could alert the official's security, but that would require explanations he wasn't prepared to give. He could trigger the building's alarm system, but that might panic the crowd and create the chaos the attackers needed. Instead, he continued cleaning, positioning himself closer to the stage while keeping the 3 suspects in his peripheral vision. If his assessment was correct, they would wait until the senator finished speaking, and the crowd's attention was focused on the auction's climax: maximum impact, minimum chance of intervention. At 9:47 p.m., exactly as Marcus had predicted, The first move came. The man by the entrance spoke quietly into his collar, a gesture that looked casual but carried the unmistakable cadence of operational communication. The second man began moving toward the stage with purposeful steps that cut through the crowd like a blade. The third stayed by the exits, his hand now resting inside his jacket. Marcus set down his mop. For the first time all evening, his movements weren't those of a janitor. The careful shuffle became a fluid stride. The stooped shoulders straightened into the bearing of someone accustomed to command. His eyes, which had been politely downcast, now carried the cold assessment of a professional who had spent decades evaluating threats. The second attacker was now within 20 feet of Senator Hartwell, his hand emerging from his jacket with the unmistakable outline of a weapon. The official security detail remained oblivious, their attention focused on managing the crowd rather than protecting their principal. Marcus moved. He approached the second attacker from behind, using the natural flow of the crowd to mask his approach. To observers, it looked like an elderly janitor was simply walking across the room, but Marcus' positioning was textbook perfect, close enough to intervene. Far enough to avoid immediate detection, angled to cut off the most direct path to the target. When the attacker finally drew his weapon, raising it toward the stage where Senator Hartwell stood smiling at the applause, Marcus was already in motion. The transformation was instantaneous and absolute. The mild-mannered janitor vanished, replaced by a trained operator who moved with lethal precision. Marcus's left hand seized the gunman's wrist, controlling the weapon's direction with a grip that spoke of decades of practice. His right elbow drove into the attacker's solar plexus with calculated force. Dropping him immediately to his knees, the weapon clattered across the marble floor as Marcus smoothly transitioned to a restraint hold that left the attacker conscious but completely immobilized. The entire sequence took less than 3 seconds and was executed with such professional efficiency that most guests initially thought they were witnessing some sort of performance. But the other attackers recognized what had happened. The man by the entrance was already moving his own weapon, appearing as he pushed through the crowd toward the stage. The third man abandoned his position by the exits, drawing a backup pistol as he closed the distance from the opposite direction. Marcus assessed the new threat matrix instantly. 2 armed hostiles converging on his position, approximately 40 civilians in immediate danger, inadequate cover, and official security still processing the initial incident. The mathematics of violence were simple and unforgiving. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.